Midnight, she preached honesty, condemned greed, and vowed to cleanse Washington until Pam Bondi dropped a bombshell that sent the FBI knocking on her door. Victoria Halston stood tall behind a mahogany podium, her smile polished, her voice smooth. Cameras flashed, capturing every angle of the woman who had built her career on moral superiority. The audience before her, a mix of journalists, supporters, and political insiders, leaned in, eager for every word. 035. This administration will never bow to corruption, she declared, her voice unwavering. Conviction dripping from every syllable. We will expose every fraudster, every backroom deal, every betrayal of the people's trust. Applause erupted. Cameras zoomed in. This was Victoria at her best, confident, untouchable, righteous, 111, but across town, in a dimly lit newsroom, Pam Bondi sat before a mountain of documents that painted a much darker story. Bank transactions, wire transfers, encrypted emails. The evidence was clear. Millions of dollars had flowed through a labyrinth of shell companies, disguised as nonprofit donations. The final destination? Victoria Halston's personal accounts, luxury properties, offshore investments. Pam exhaled slowly. This isn't just a scandal, she murmured. This is political suicide. She reached for her phone. It was time to go public. 1:46. Victoria had perfected the art of outrage. She had built her reputation on fiery speeches, attacking corporate greed, promising to dismantle a system rigged for the wealthy. Her story was compelling. A single mother, a fighter, a champion of the people. Her last election had been a landslide, fueled by grassroots supporters who saw her as a beacon of justice. But behind closed doors, the truth was far uglier. 2:20. Buried within encrypted servers were emails revealing conversations with high-profile donors, some with foreign ties, promises made, deals struck, favors exchanged. She wasn't fighting corruption. She was thriving in it. And now, it was all about to collapse. Pam Bondi wasn't alone. A whistleblower, an anonymous former staffer, had spent months collecting damning evidence, documents, phone recordings, secret emails, all pointing to a scandal so deep that it made previous political controversies look trivial. 2:56. One email stood out the most. We need to move the funds discreetly. I don't want this traced back to the campaign. Keep everything under the nonprofit's umbrella. It worked last time. Victoria's signature was at the bottom, undeniable, and in less than 24 hours, the entire country would know the truth. 3:30 Victoria, unaware of the storm brewing, basked in the crowd's cheers. She shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, unshakable, untouchable. Meanwhile, back at the newsroom, Pam Bondi was finalizing an exclusive primetime broadcast. The network had cleared an entire segment. Millions of Americans were about to witness one of the most powerful women in politics exposed in real time. 4:06. The producer's voice crackled in her earpiece. We're live in 5, 4, 3. Pam straightened. Good evening. What I have in my hands tonight is not just another political scandal. It's a betrayal of public trust at the highest level. She held up a document. The nonprofit's logo stamped at the top. Congresswoman Victoria Halston has built her career on fighting corruption, but leaked documents tell a much different story. 4:41. The screen behind her lit up with evidence. Wire transfers, offshore accounts, encrypted emails. The numbers didn't lie. Millions have been funneled into personal accounts, disguised as donations for social justice initiatives. Pam let the weight of her words settle before delivering the final blow. Not only has Congresswoman Halston misused campaign funds, but she also has direct financial ties to foreign donors, some with questionable agendas. 5:13. The newsroom fell silent. Across the country, social media exploded. At Victoria Halston's campaign headquarters, the mood shifted from celebration to crisis. Staffers, still riding the high from her earlier rally, stared at their screens in disbelief. Phones rang, texts flooded in, news anchors dissected every detail. In her private office, Victoria stood frozen, eyes locked on the screen. 5:49. She had always known she walked a fine line, that her deals carried risks, but she had never expected this level of exposure. Her chief of staff, Noah Brennan, burst through the door, pale, gripping his phone. "We need a response. Now." 6:27. "Damage control," she ordered, already moving toward her desk. "Get the legal team on the line. Deny everything. Discredit the source. Call a smear campaign." Within minutes, Victoria's team issued a statement. "These baseless accusations are nothing more than a coordinated political attack. Congresswoman Halston has always operated with the highest ethical standards and will not be intimidated by right-wing media smear campaigns." 7:01, but the public wasn't buying it. Pam Bondi had receipts, and more were coming. 7:36, Victoria paced her office, a tumbler of whiskey in one hand, her phone in the other. Outside, her team was in full-blown crisis mode. The leaks weren't stopping. The press circled like sharks. Noah stormed in. "It's worse than we thought." He dropped another stack of documents onto her desk. More leaks, financials, emails. Bondi's team has everything. 8:45. Victoria felt the room tilt slightly. Someone close had turned. Someone with access to encrypted files, offshore accounts, private memos. She gritted her teeth. It wasn't a question of if she had enemies. It was who had finally grown a conscience. 9:22, then her phone buzzed. A private number. She hesitated. Answered. "This is Halston." A smooth, measured voice on the other end. "Congresswoman, we need to talk." 9:59. She knew the voice. One of her shadow donors. A man whose name never appeared on paper. A man who moved money. Controlled narratives. Silenced opponents. "This is not a good time." "It wasn't a good time for us either when your little operation got exposed," he said. "Now it's a problem. And if it's our problem, it's your problem." A cold weight settled in her stomach. This wasn't just politics anymore. This was dangerous. 10:32. The FBI is involved. Noah whispered. "They're pulling records. Subpoenas are coming. We're running out of time." 11:06. Victoria clenched her jaw. "Then we get ahead of them." Her voice was cold. "Find me a scapegoat." Noah hesitated. "We've identified someone." He slid a manila folder across the desk. Victoria flipped it open. "Elliot Shaw, Senior Finance Director. Loyal, competent, maybe a little naive. Perfect. 1357. Can we sell it?" she asked. "If we spin it right." A lawyer replied. "Internal mismanagement. An oversight. We claim he acted alone." Victoria tapped a finger against the folder. "Then make sure he takes the fall." But what if this time? There was no escape. The stage was set. The cameras focused. The air crackled with anticipation. Congresswoman Victoria Halston stood behind the mahogany podium, her practiced smile gleaming under the studio lights. She had built a career on fiery speeches, exposing corruption, and vowing to clean up Washington. "This administration will never bow to corruption," she declared, her voice firm, conviction dripping from every syllable. Applause erupted. The cameras zoomed in. Victoria Halston, righteous, untouchable, a champion of the people. But outside the building, a storm was brewing. Across town, in a dimly lit newsroom, Pam Bondi sat before a stack of documents that would shatter Victoria's carefully curated image. Pages filled with wire transfers, encrypted emails, and offshore accounts lay before her. This wasn't just a scandal. It was political suicide. Pam picked up her phone. It was time to go public. For years, Victoria had painted herself as the voice of the people, a fighter who had clawed her way to the top, but behind closed doors. The truth was much uglier. Emails buried deep within encrypted servers revealed conversations with powerful donors, some with foreign ties. Promises were made, deals were struck, favors exchanged, and now it was all about come crashing down. A whistleblower had stepped forward, an insider who had spent months collecting evidence, documents, recordings, emails. Everything pointed to a web of corruption so deep that it made past political scandals look like minor infractions. One email stood out. "We need to move the funds discreetly. I don't want this traced back to the campaign. Keep everything under the nonprofit umbrella." It worked last time. Victoria Halston's name was signed at the bottom. The evidence was undeniable. Back at her rally, Victoria basked in the cheers of the crowd, unaware that her empire was already crumbling. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi was on the phone with a major news network. In less than 24 hours, the entire country would know the truth. The countdown had begun. Pam Bondi sat in a brightly lit newsroom, microphone clipped. Stacks of incriminating documents spread before her. The network had cleared an entire segment for this. Millions of Americans were about to watch one of the most powerful women in politics get exposed in real time. The producer's voice crackled in her earpiece. "We're live in 5, 4, 3. Pam straightened. "Good evening. What I have in my hands tonight is not just another political scandal. It's a betrayal of public trust at the highest level." She held up the first document. The screen behind her lit up with wire transfers, offshore accounts, and encrypted emails. The numbers didn't lie. Millions have been funneled into Victoria's personal accounts, disguised as donations for social justice initiatives. Pam let the weight of her words settle before delivering the final blow. Not only has Congresswoman Halston misused campaign funds, but sources indicate she has direct financial ties to foreign donors, some with questionable agendas, across the country. Social media exploded. At Victoria Halston's campaign headquarters in Austin, Texas, the mood shifted from celebration to crisis. Staffers stared at their screens in disbelief. Phones rang. Texts flooded in. News anchors dissected every detail of the report. In her private office, Victoria stood frozen, her eyes locked on the screen. She had always known she was walking a fine line, but she never expected this level of exposure. Her chief of staff, Noah Brennan, burst through the door, his face pale, gripping his phone like a lifeline. "We need a response. Now!" Victoria snapped out of her daze. Damage control. She ordered, "Get the legal team on the line. I want every news outlet to know these allegations are false." But even as she spoke, she knew the truth. They weren't false. Minutes later, her team issued a statement. "These baseless accusations are nothing more than a coordinated political attack. Congresswoman Halston has always operated with the highest ethical standards and will not be intimidated by right-wing media smear campaigns." It was a textbook defense. Deny, discredit, deflect, but the public wasn't buying it. Pam Bondi had receipts, and more were coming. Outside Victoria's office, chaos erupted. Phones wouldn't stop ringing. Aides whispered frantically in hallways. The press circled like sharks. The leaks weren't stopping. Her chief of staff shoved open the door without knocking. "It's worse than we thought." He dropped a fresh stack of documents onto her desk. More leaks, more emails, more financials. Bondi's people have everything. Victoria didn't move. She just stared at the papers, the neat rows of transactions. The numbers now tied directly to her name. This can't be happening. How the hell did this happen? Whistleblower. Noah said, "Someone close." They knew exactly where to look. Victoria felt the room tilt slightly. Someone inside her circle had turned. Then, her phone buzzed. A private number. She hesitated, but answered, "This is Halston." Silence. Then, a voice smooth, measured, unmistakably powerful. "Congresswoman, we need to talk." Her grip on the phone tightened. She knew the voice, one of her donors, a name that never appeared on paper. Someone who moved money in the shadows, funding elections, silencing opponents, controlling narratives. "This is not a good time," she said. "It wasn't a good time for us either when your little operation got exposed." The voice was calm, too calm. "Now it's a problem. And if it's our problem, it's your problem." A cold weight settled in her stomach. This wasn't just about politics anymore. This was dangerous. "I'll handle it," she said carefully. A pause. "You'd better. We don't like loose ends." The line went dead. Victoria just stood there, the phone still pressed to her ear, as if she could rewind the last 5 minutes and undo everything. Noah cleared his throat. "The FBI is getting involved," he said, voice low. "They're pulling records. Subpoenas will go out. We're running out of time." Victoria clenched her jaw. Panic was a luxury she couldn't afford. She slammed her glass onto the desk. "Then we get ahead of them." Noah blinked. "How?" Victoria's mind was already working. She had spent years flipping scandals, shifting blame. This wasn't new territory. "Find me a scapegoat," she said, her voice cold. "Someone to take the fall." Noah hesitated. There was a line they hadn't crossed before. She stared him down. "Now." "Noah." He nodded stiffly and left the room. Victoria let out a slow breath. The scandal was a hurricane threatening to rip everything apart. But if she played this right, she might still outrun it. Or had the storm already grown too big to escape? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over Washington, D.C., Victoria Halston sat in the dimly lit confines of her private office. The whiskey in her glass barely dulled the tension crackling in the air. Every second counted now. The scandal wasn't just about to explode. It was already a wildfire, devouring everything in its path. A knock at the door. Sharp, urgent. Noah re-entered, his face pale, his usual controlled demeanor slipping. "We have a problem." "No kidding," Victoria muttered, swirling the whiskey before taking a slow sip. "Which one?" Noah tossed a tablet onto her desk. The screen was filled with flashing notifications. Pam Bondi just dropped another bombshell. Victoria snatched it up, her eyes darting across the screen. Breaking. FBI confirms investigation into Congresswoman Victoria Halston's finances. Her stomach turned to ice. She read further. Sources close to the investigation confirm that subpoenas have been issued for campaign financial records. Federal agents are looking into possible money laundering, illicit campaign contributions, and financial fraud. This marks the most significant corruption probe in recent political history. Noah exhaled. "They're not just looking, Victoria. They're coming for you." For the first time in her career, real fear slithered into her chest. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a takedown. She needed a way out. Her mind worked at lightning speed, piecing together fragments of possible escape routes, legal loopholes, political favors. Someone she could pin this on. "We need someone to take the fall," she said, her voice devoid of hesitation. "Someone high enough to satisfy the media, but low enough that they're disposable." Noah swallowed hard. "We can't just—" "Yes, we can," she snapped. "And we will. Do we have anyone expendable?" A pause. Then, reluctantly, Noah slid another file across the desk. She picked it up. Eric Donovan, chief campaign strategist. He had been with her from the beginning. Loyal, smart, and now necessary collateral. Eric handled all financial oversight. Noah murmured, "It's plausible he could have done this without your knowledge." Victoria nodded slowly. Then that's exactly what happened. A plan took shape. By morning, the media would have their villain. Eric Donovan was about to become the face of the scandal. Meanwhile, across town, Pam Bondi sat at her desk, staring at the next wave of evidence. The pieces were aligning faster than she expected. Then her phone rang. A deep, disguised voice came through the receiver. "I have more information." Pam straightened. "Who is this?" "Someone who wants the truth out." She grabbed her notepad. "Go on." The voice hesitated. Then, "Victoria Halston is about to throw Eric Donovan under the bus. But he isn't the mastermind. She is." Pam's pulse quickened. "Can you prove it?" A long pause. Then, check the encrypted emails. There's a hidden attachment in the March 4th exchange. It's a direct order from Halston to reroute the funds. Pam felt the room close in around her. If this was true, it was a final nail in Halston's political coffin. "Why are you telling me this?" The voice exhaled. "Because she's done this before. And this time, she doesn't deserve to get away with it." The line went dead. Pam stared at the phone. This wasn't just corruption. It was conspiracy. And she had everything she needed to blow it wide open. 6:42 a.m., Washington, D.C. The first wave of reporters had already staked out Victoria Halston's townhouse. Their cameras pointed at the front door like loaded weapons. The scandal was evolving too fast for her control. And that was the most dangerous part. Inside, Victoria paced across her marble-floored living room. Phone pressed to her ear. "Tell me it's handled." On the other end, Noah's voice was clipped. "We leaked the narrative about Eric Donovan. The media's already running with it. He's been unreachable since last night. If he doesn't respond by noon, the public will assume guilt." "Good." Victoria exhaled. "What about the emails?" A hesitation. "Pam Bondi might have them." Victoria stopped pacing. Her fingers tightened around the phone. "Might." There was a breach in our servers. Someone extracted files. The March 4th exchange was among them. For a second, the world seemed to tilt. Those emails were damning. Not just an implication. There was direct evidence of her involvement. If Pam Bondi got them, it was game over. Victoria closed her eyes, forcing herself to think. "Find out who leaked them. I already have a theory." Noah muttered, "I think it was Eric." Victoria's teeth clenched. The betrayal cut deep. She had protected him, elevated him, and now he was playing a hero? Where is he? No one's seen him since last night. His phone is off. His apartment is empty. Victoria's mind raced. If Eric had flipped, then someone was helping him. Someone powerful. "Give me a meeting with Senator Callaway." She ordered. Noah hesitated. "Callaway? He's the only person who can make this disappear." Noah sighed. "I'll set it up." Victoria ended the call and tossed her phone onto the table. She had spent years playing this game, and she had never lost. She wasn't about to start now. 7:30 a.m., a secret location. Eric Donovan sat in a darkened safe house, staring at the laptop screen. The emails were there, proof of everything. Across from him, Pam Bondi watched him carefully. "You understand what happens if we release these?" she asked. Eric nodded. Victoria Halston goes down. Pam leaned forward. "Not just her. This runs deeper than you know. There are others involved. Senators, lobbyists, foreign investors. If we expose this, we don't just take down Halston. We trigger a political war." Eric's hands trembled slightly. He had spent years by her side, believing in her. And now, he was about to destroy her. "Then let's do it," he said. Pam nodded. She reached for her phone and dialed. "I have the proof," she told her contact. We moved forward. On the other end, a voice responded. "Understood. We'll make the drop at noon." Eric closed his laptop. There was no turning back now. Victoria Halston was about to fall. 8:15 a.m., the senators. Office Victoria Halston swept into Senator Callaway's office without waiting for an invitation. Callaway, an aging powerhouse with a reputation for making problems disappear. barely glanced up from his desk. This better be important. Victoria, he said, setting down his cigar. Victoria sat across from him, crossing her legs with calculated poise. Eric has the emails. He's working with Pam Bondi. They're planning to release them at noon. Calloway's expression didn't change, but a slight flicker of his eyelids told her he understood the gravity of the situation. And you want me to what? Exactly? Stop them, Victoria said. Calloway chuckled, taking his time relighting his cigar. You politicians, always thinking problems can be erased with a phone call. He leaned forward. Tell me. Victoria, how far are you willing to go to make this disappear? Victoria met his gaze. As far as necessary. Calloway exhaled a cloud of smoke, studying her. There's only one way to handle this now. Eric Donovan needs to be silenced. Victoria felt the weight of his words settle in the room. She had always played dirty. But this was another level. And if I say no, she asked. Calloway smirked. Then you'll be the one they come for next. Victoria clenched her jaw. She had spent her entire career maneuvering through political landmines. She knew how this game worked. There was no way out, only a choice between being the hunter or the hunted. Fine, she said. Take care of it. Calloway nodded and picked up his phone. Consider it done. Victoria stood, smoothing down her jacket. I expect results. She turned and walked out, her pulse steady but her mind racing. By noon, Eric Donovan would be dead, or so she thought. 9 a.m. Safe house Eric paced the room, gripping his phone. Are you sure about this? He asked Pam. Pam nodded. The documents are scheduled for release at noon. Everything's in motion. Eric exhaled, feeling the weight of his decision settle on his shoulders. For years, he had been part of the machine, playing by the rules of the corrupt. Now, he was about to burn it all down. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, a restricted number. He hesitated, then answered. Hello? A deep, unfamiliar voice spoke. Eric Donovan, you have less than 3 hours to disappear. If you don't, you won't live to see the afternoon. Eric's blood ran cold. Pam's eyes locked onto his. Asterisk, what is it? She asked. Eric swallowed hard. They know. For the first time in his life, he truly understood what it felt like to be hunted, and noon was coming fast.